Okay, hello, Crafty Chris here with another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight is not going to be a scrap night, it's going to be a getting organized night. So I have been sampling all the different distress paints I have because when I have them in my container, all I can see is the black tops. I can't figure out what the color is underneath without having to lift all the bottles out to search for it. So I've decided to do something quick and easy, which is just to sample all the colors I have, and then I'm going to let them dry, and I'm going to hole punch them and glue them to the lids. Pretty simple stuff, right? So these are brand new ones that I haven't really had a chance to open yet. And if they have a little, you have to shake it a bit. If they have a little stopper on top when they're brand new, it's super easy to do. And this one does. Awesome. So I just take this little doodad and I flatten it down on my paper and then throw that out. Make sure that you put it somewhere where it's not going to get other things all messy. So that colored was speckled. The one before it was lumberjack. So just to keep in my mind what it is, so I can get it on the proper bottle, I am just writing underneath the name of it. Now, whether it's perfect, I don't care. It just gives me a sense of what the color is, so that I know what I'm looking for when I go to say, okay, I'm looking for pumice. I know pumice is like a gray color, so I'm going to just look at those three instead of all of the bottles until I find it. So that's it. That's my first tip. And I should add that if I open one of these up, hopefully I can do that. Let me just try doing that right now. I'm going to open one of these up and hopefully they won't have an inner little protector cap. And then I'll show you what I do in that case so I can get a nice sample. I tried brushing it, but brushing it doesn't really give you any sort of in-depth color. So hopefully this won't have an inner cap. Ah, it does. Okay, so okay, I'm going to do that after. Let's see if I can find one without an inner cap. Some of the older ones, if they've been sitting around the store for a while, don't have that inner cap. Oh goodness, this one just does not want to open up. There we go. Come on. All right. Please have no open cap. Oh, it has a cap. Okay, so basically what I do is I just open the lid, I put a drop, not a lot, and then I just smooth it out like I'm icing a cake, basically. Okay, that's it. So now I have everything down. I'm just going to do a quick dry. So everything is dry now, and I don't think I'm going to use the 1-inch because it's a little bit too close to the size, whoops, of my paint container. So I'm going to use the 1/2 inch, and that should give us a good enough setup. So I want to make sure I have all my first rounds of paint ready. I've sort of kept them in the order that they are on the paper, and I had another one here that I'm doing something with. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, actually the first thing we're going to do is put some Dry's Tacky Glue on the surface, if we can get it into the bottom of the tube. And I'm just kind of going to do this on everything This Dry's Tacky Glue is better when it's completely dry. But we're going to see how it works without it getting too dry or dry enough. All right, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I'm going in, and still a tiny bit damp, so I might have a bit of a struggle with that, but let's see. Oh yeah, I might have to dry this a little bit longer. Oops. Okay, let's see if we can save this. There we go. Yeah, it needs more drying time. So we will return when it is drier. All right, so I kind of have a system happening now. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. That one worked really well. And then sometimes the next one won't. Yep. It's almost like it's on and off again. And I did sharpen my punch just a little. So I'm just going to trim off the raggedy edges just because that's kind of who I am. And I'm just plopping them on that glue. Now the glue, as I said earlier, should probably dry because it's sticky when dry. Otherwise, you know, you're getting sort of a gushing if you have too much glue, like this one has. A little too much glue. So I got to get rid of some of that. And I got it on my color. There we go. So this is basically now how they're going to be stored. So when they're in my container, I can actually see what colors they are. I could write the colors on them too if I wanted to. Now the thing to remember is that when you finish with one of the colors and you're getting a new color, don't throw away the lid. You're just going to replace the old lid or the new lid with the old lid, so you don't have to redo this again. Okay, so it's like sort of a permanent solution to ongoing use of paint. So that is the first organizing tip. Okay, so in addition to getting those paints organized, I have, this is my swatch binder, and it's a little, I don't know what to call it, Simple Stories flip binder, I don't know. Anyway, inside I have swatched out, using their little 2x2 pages, a bunch of things and put tabs on so I can find things quickly. So what I have in the beginning here is my mica sprays, which are a Ranger product, and I've just kind of sprayed full and then kind of given an idea of how, oh, let me turn that light off, an idea of how it blends out when you add water. So I've got the mica sprays at the front, some Distress Spray Stain in the antique colors, in the tarnished colors, and then I have the Distress Ink colors, and I've tried to keep them sort of in colorways. And again, I've done complete full at the bottom, and then I've sort of done like a once over at the top, and then I've spritzed water on them to give an idea of the different ways they can look. And I've got whatever colors I have in my stash is what I have in here. The other thing this works for is I use this for the distress paints. I use it for the archival. So, or not the archival because I have the archival. But these are my swatches for the actual colors of the sprays I have and the Distress Mini inks that I have as well. So these are all in here. Um, and that way I just go to one place to look at what those colors are going to look like. I did do a different thing with the archival, because the archival is kind of a different animal. It doesn't behave in the same way as the water reactive inks do. So I have them in a different location, so I can see what they look like compared to what you would have here. So a good comparison is Faded Jeans. So this is Faded Jeans at the bottom here, and that's Faded Jeans in Archival. The color is the same, but the action of the ink is different. And then I've got a section where I have my gelatos. So I have my thick gelato, and I kind of played around with seeing how it could spread out. And most of these top ones are pearls, so they have a little bit of a shimmer to them. And then these guys are more the regular colors, and some very kind of neon looking ones. I also have my Posca markers in here, so all the markers that I own in the Posca line. Whoops. Okay. So as you can see, I need a lot of organizing. So my Posca markers, as I was saying, are on here, so you can see the thicknesses and the different colors I have in each of the thicknesses. And I also have my Stickles colors on here as well. So what it looks like as a dot, what it looks like as a line. This is an older way I was managing my colors, and so I just stuck it in the back. And then I have some experiments when I first got sprays and inks to play around with them a little bit and see what I could do with stamping, blending tools, and water. Before I got into the distress embossing powders, I used clear embossing powder on them. A couple of plays with distress ink and tones between what's on the back of these. So these, for example, look similar, but they're different. So I have Salty Ocean, Cracked Pistachio, and Ice Spruce on both of them, but one is blended, then stenciled the opposite colors. So I took Salty Ocean and stenciled it here. The crackle I did there, and then the gray I did there. And this one is blended, then stenciled monochromatically. So the gray is stenciled here, the green there, and the blue at the top. So just like some things I was doing, I was playing around at the time. And if they had results that I thought might be interesting to note, a little bit of play here. I don't know what this is. I tend to do things in forests. So these guys are similar, but I've done something different. So these guys here are candied apple, ripe persimmon, mustard seed with evergreen bough, which is through the center. And I used it on like a watercolor. So I wet it down. So that's what that one is. This one that is the same look is candied apple, salty ocean, ripe persimmon, and mustard seed. So I added mustard seed, and these are the oxides. So these were the inks, and these were the oxides. And I used the same procedure and that was the watercolor process. I actually should put those together. So that's what I did there. So just giving you an idea of how I organize and hang on to these things. So here we have, again, oxides and inks, the same the same colors as up here. I pulled through it and I tapped horizontally when it was really, really wet. And this one I pulled through and tapped horizontally when it was really wet as well. So I got more of a spray look here and more of a washy look here. Anyway, you get the idea. So let me just put these guys back where they belong. Originally, I had them hanging on little clips, but they just kind of got crazy and out of the way and out of control. And I'll show you. I've got still got some on clips. And then this is just techniques that I played around with that I really liked. I guess that would have been some kind of a gel medium or something. And then I have some samples of fuchsia stencil butters in here that are TCW product and how they look thin and thick. And I've got a set of all the colors and then kind of how they play around when you're using the same color for mixing my Distress inks in with the stencil butters and all the different kinds of techniques and things I got out of that. Anyway, so this is getting quite full. These samples may end up at some point going into their own little book. I have a couple of spare binders that I haven't quite used yet. So that is an easy way to keep your sort of swatch book. And just to show my old system, this was with Sethapter Ising products, and I just did a whole whack of I used the same product, Texture Sandy, and I gave a little comment as to it was appropriate for all sizes of stencils, it was shiny surfaced, it could be mixed and colored with other products. And then I showed what I did. So I small stencil and palette knife on black, on craft, on tag, and on watercolor, and how that looks. And then a palette knife on mixed media paper and oh, right, just with the palette knife on mixed media paper, so this example here, and then mixed media through stencil. So this is what I've done here, a big stencil and a small stencil. So I did a whole bunch of those with all the different mediums. This is the Texture Flaky medium, and I tried to keep it a standard sort of set of tests so that I could really look and see what I was getting out of it. And this is the beaded texture, this is the pearly, and this is the ice, this is the diamond, and this one was a palette knife with all the pearlies, and this was a palette knife with all the ices. And then this was the pigments, the little bottles of pigments, and this was the sprays. So just it's kind of like a science project. You have a standard of what you're going to do with them, and then you just try it with all of them. What are some other samplings I have? Let me take these down. So eventually all of these hanging ones will find themselves in a book of some sort, because it's just more practical, because you can only have so many things hanging around. So this is a bunch of different gessos. So this is TCW gesso. I haven't got that gesso yet. Vicki Boutin gesso, so I did it thin and thick. Sizzix gesso primer and mixed media modeling paste. So I don't know why. I don't have the actual sample on there. Maybe it was stuck to the back or something. Anyway, so just if I want to know, if I want to look and see what kind of gesso I want to use, I can see that this one is more of a yellowy color based compared to the others. And this one is super thick. And as I get new gessos, I put a sample. And that also helps me when I'm purchasing things, because then I'm able to sort of say to myself, okay, I really liked a particular one and I know what it was and I can go back to it. These guys, I think, were early sort of just swatches of all the colors I had. This is before I got into the system of making the book. So just again, the same system, but just on a smaller scale and using tags, and which was okay, but I found that I needed to switch into the 2x2 squares for each color, because this really just didn't give me enough space. Although the funny thing is, seeing the two colors blend together is kind of an interesting thing too. But anyway, that's kind of what I did there. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. There are many other organizing tips I can give you. Maybe over time I'll just throw them up every once in a while. And the other thing that I just want to point out is when you're playing around with products and, you know, looking at what you can do with different inks using different methods, and you have all these samples. A lot of these samples are good enough to go on cards. You just want to cut out a section of it and reuse it. So when you have those, keep them together, but do use them. Don't put them in a drawer and forget about them like I have. Pull them out and either do some die cutting with them, or do some make some card fronts with them, and get them out there. If you're not interested in what you originally had, you can always go in and do something else with it. These are just raw materials, so you can add other layers of things. What did I do here? So this is I had put some foil, transfer foil on what do you call it, a double-sided tape, and I had an old piece of double-sided tape that had a pattern on it, so I put it on to get the excess, what am I trying to say, the excess foil off, so I didn't throw it away and not use it. And so it left all of these, where the iridescent stuff is, it left all of that without anything on it. And so I went back in with a different color, an iridescent version, and a piece that was, you know, used up and needed to be turned into something rather than thrown away. And I filled in all the gaps with the iridescent, and it's beautiful. So like this again is going to be cut into a 2x2 square and end up in my sample sample container. And the other one I'm actually going to use on a project. So you can actually see the flower there that was removed when I used the foil the first time, and then it got filled in with the iridescent, and it's really beautiful. So this would be a technique that I would write on the back and put in my binder as well. So don't throw stuff away, just rework it. And maybe I'll do a few videos of that in the upcoming months. Alrighty, so that's it for me tonight. I hope you enjoyed what you saw and were able to think about how you might apply that in your own space. And if you like the video, please feel free to share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe and like underneath the video on the YouTube station. And we'll see you next Thursday. Bye now.